Association, you are automatically then on the tenant participation forum. Names go forward to be elected onto the committee of management. I was one of the lucky people. My name was put forward and I was elected onto it. It's just so interesting. It's totally mind blown for the first few times that you go. But once you start getting used to the way these people talk and you start to understand some of the jargon, then the interest is there. And also, you can really get involved in things that you would never in 100 years be involved in.
Notting Hill Housing Trust operates in West London. The Trust is working with other landlords and all the tenants and residents to redevelop the Colville area. David Thompson, a local tenant, explains.
Initially and primarily we were concerned with how City Challenge money is being spent in this immediate area, and we're trying to be involved in how it's spent and in ensuring that it's spent in the best way possible, in ways that answer the needs of residents. Essentially, we are a kind of pressure group, or a series of pressure groups, trying to ensure that tenants' initiatives are taken on board by the Trust and by the other landlords, of course.
Naveen Powell is the Tenant Participation Development Officer for the Trust, based at a residents' information centre that has been set up in the area. She tells us about the information they provide for tenants.
What happens is that we do a monthly newsletter from 108 Talbot Road, which is the Resources Information Centre, which gives information on all the issues that are being discussed at present or are ongoing within the Colville project. At the back of the newsletter there's a calendar for that month of all the meetings that are going to take place at that time. So tenants, residents that aren't solely active and involved in the initiatives that are happening in the Colville area can get this information and come along if they wish, or get involved in another way.
The tenants of each landlord have been helped to form their own group, and these are then able to meet together with the landlords.
We have an umbrella group called Colville Area Residents Federation, which are representatives from each of the tenants group involved in the Colville project. And also we have a Colville Area Council, which consists of tenant representatives from each tenants group, plus officers from each landlord.
In rural areas, a tenants' association may cover a large area. In North Norfolk, for example, the tenants of Wherry Housing Association are setting up ways to keep in touch with the association without frequent meetings. Cynthia Savoury is one of the tenants.
The Tenants Association are gradually getting their own branch committees and things going, and that's their way of residents' democracy, tenant participation, the village voice. There's somebody who's there, they've got one person on each street. We would like to see one person in each village so that the villagers can then combine together to voice their opinions, because one person on their own, although is a voice, you get them all together and you can get a lot further.
Tenants at Covent Garden in central London have 87 homes in their central London village. They have formed their own tenant management cooperative. The co-op members are negotiating with St Pancras Housing Association to decide how much of the management of their homes will be run by the tenants themselves. They've had a grant from the Housing Corporation to employ advisors to help them. Jessica Skippen is chair of the co-op.
We formed a co-op a year ago, and we'll be taking over the management of our properties at the beginning of April. One of our members came to a meeting with a clipping from a newspaper that she'd seen about a woman in the north of England setting up with her neighbours a tenant management co-op. And she said, why don't we do this? Let's do this. And the feasibility study went on for close to a year and a half. It was quite a difficult, complex one. And at the end of the time, a ballot was put to all the tenants and the leaseholders asking whether we wanted to set up a tenant management co-op. And that was put into the feasibility study then. We had a response of over 70% of those voting in favour. Actually, 79% of those voted in favour of setting up a tenant management co-op. The advantage to us of being a co-op is actually being responsible for the maintenance and the management of the properties. For example, there's a woman that I ran into at the doctor's surgery yesterday who said, oh goodness, she said, my gas heater is really giving me trouble, it's blowing out. I said, well, don't you get it serviced each year? She said, no. She didn't realise that it was meant to be serviced every year. And so I rang St Pancras today and arranged for servicing. Once we begin managing our own properties, it's the sort of thing we'll be on top of regularly rather than waiting for accidents to happen. We won't be doing the rent setting, though they'll still be doing that, but we'll be collecting the rents and chasing up the arrears, and we'll be responsible then for the maintenance. We'll get a budget and have to work within that budget.
In some areas, a formal agreement between the landlord and the tenants is set up so that the two can work in partnership. Keith Ellis is the manager of the William Sutton Trust Estate in Leeds.
The Estate Management Committee comprises members of the Tenants Association, which exists on the estate, a member of the local maintenance staff, myself and the regional manager. And the idea of the Estate Management Committee is to discuss jointly the future of the estate and to make joint decisions as to how we actually want the estate to progress in the future.
Derek Cartwright, a tenant on the estate, explains how the tenants are involved.
Every month we have zone meetings up here with the landlord, Keith Ellis, and he's giving us an update every month of the repair structure. We've also got an update on lettings. We've also started from that a youth club and a disco.
The idea of getting tenants involved in the actual management of the estate obviously has benefits for everybody. We as a housing association discover what the main concerns of the tenants are. They actually live on the estate. By finding out what they actually think about the estate, how they would like to see the estate go in the future, the Trust can better target resources. We can hopefully give the tenants more of what they want, which results in the tenants being happier, which leads to a better, more settled estate rather than people leaving, they're happy to stay here.
There are advantages for tenants when they are given a say. In all the examples we've seen, tenants have put in a lot of their own time and energy, and landlords have provided staff and resources. Efforts are made to listen to all tenants by taking action to encourage those tenants from minority groups to take part. But there is more to it than that. The housing associations will have to adapt so that the management is really listening to tenants' views. These landlords and many others are making a commitment to tenant involvement.